Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, FPL Consult here, and today we're gonna do the Game Week 13 deadline stream. So how was everyone's Game Week 12, right? Game Week 12 was pretty much a low scoring game week for everyone, I think. If you got anywhere close to maybe 40 points, anything more than 40 points I think is pretty good for Game Week 12. Um Quite a low scoring game week, 38 points on average, right? I'm assuming that a lot of people, maybe the casuals who weren't aware of the blank game week, they probably left their teams with loads of maybe Arsenal and City players, and that's probably why we're seeing the low scores. So yeah, I think anywhere around 40 plus points should be alright. And also I got 54 points, right? So I did I was kind of hoping that I would score a little bit more than average because I was preparing for this game week 12, right? Pretty early on, right? Already on my wildcard, I was preparing for the game week 12 blank. So I'm pretty happy with my score, 54 points. Um, yeah, I think could have gone better. Right, I did expect to get a little bit more points or a little bit bigger of a rank rise, but I'm currently just 1 point shy of the top 1 mil. So I'm hoping to break in. And the target is the top 500k before the World Cup. Right, so hopefully we can get there. Alright, say hi to some of you guys in the chat. FPL Insight as well. Nice to see you in the chat. Right, VJ, hi from Southern India. Thanks for joining. Right, so FPL Insight says 51 points for me, small red arrow to exactly 300k. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's a good score as well. Right, anything above, I guess 45 points is pretty good. Right, so I do have quite a lot of content planned for today. So I think we'll just quickly talk a little bit about my team. I won't dwell too much on that. I already covered most of what I wanted to cover in the team selection video, but pretty much this is how I'm gonna line up. Right, I'm going for Ward in goal, Pope on the bench. Now I've decided not to double up on Newcastle defense because they play Spurs away. So I do see some goals for Spurs there. I know Newcastle have been pretty solid defensively, but I do see some goals there for Spurs. So we're gonna go with Ward as the goalkeeper, and then we're gonna go for Pope on the bench, right? So that we can kind of spread the risk. Trippier, of course, I'm gonna play him. He's been really consistent, right? So I do like that. Yeah, I brought him in pretty early on. And then we have Cancelo, Brighton at home, Zuma, Bournemouth at home as well. Right, I think there are clean sheets to be had here. Right, there are clean sheets to be had, I guess, for Ward, Zuma, and Cancelo. Right, Trippier maybe he doesn't keep his clean sheet, but I still do think like he's always on set pieces. He's always taking corners, etc. So his source of points, right, is not only the clean sheets. Right, so Trippier, Cancelo, Zuma, right? And then in the midfield, Salah, Foden, Zaha, and Martinelli, right? So I've decided not to take a hit. Decided not to take a hit for Saka, right? Because my only route to Saka, I do have some money in the bank, right? I do have 1.9 in the bank, right? So I could afford Zaha to Saka, but I decided not to do that because my reasoning is that which I think after considering it a while, right, I do think it does sound like a sound move, right? Over the next 4 game weeks, Arsenal have Southampton, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea away, and then Wolves away. Now, I don't think there are too many goals in the last 2 fixtures, so Southampton away and also Nottingham Forest at home, right, for Arsenal. Those are the 2 fixtures that I probably would miss out on some points for Saka, right? But there are a couple of factors in play. So Zaha does have a decent run himself, right? He is also on penalties, so his run is actually pretty decent as well, right? So Everton away, Southampton at home, West Ham away, and Nottingham Forest away. So essentially, the Nottingham Forest game, he also does have that easy fixture. It's just that it's away, right, and it's in game week 16. But aside from that, right, there's Southampton at home for him as well. They pretty much play the same two teams that Arsenal are going to play in game week 13 and 14, which is Southampton and Nottingham Forest. And then in 13 and 15, Zaha has Everton away and West Ham away, right? So that's kind of in comparison to Saka's other two fixtures of Chelsea away and Wolves away, right? And if you ask me, out of these two fixtures, I think like Everton away and West Ham away are the better fixtures. So I'm gonna keep hold of Zaha. I'm gonna keep hold of Zaha. I already have Martinelli in my team, right? And one other factor that is on my mind as well is that Saka is kind of nursing a little bit of a knock, right? So Arteta has downplayed it a little bit, but he does have a knock, right? Saka does, he took a knock to his ankle in yesterday's Europa League, right? So I guess at this point in time, I don't think I would justify the hit for Zaha out to Saka, right? So that's why my midfield is pretty much the way it is, right? Foden in for Trossard, right, and then Salah against Nottingham Forest. So there's also talk that Darwin is also, a little bit nursing a little bit of a knock as well. We'll go into the quotes later on. I did prepare the exact quotes, right, but Klopp did say that the injury to Darwin Núñez is something to be concerned, right? It's something to be concerned with. So we'll take a look at the quotes later on, right? But up front, I've gone with Mitrovic, Diego Costa, and Captain Haaland, right? The captaincy, I don't think I would go anywhere else other than Haaland, except for the fact that if Darwin Núñez is definitely out, then Salah plays centre forward, then there could be a chance I captain Salah, right? I'm not opposed to it, but I think Haaland for now is still my captain. Diego Costa, I received a couple of replies on Twitter as well, asking why I started Diego Costa over the players on my bench, right? So I'm not going to start Dunk, right? So it's pretty much whether I start Gehi or Andreas ahead of Diego Costa, right? But I think Everton away isn't in particularly an easy fixture for Gehi, and on top of that, Everton are coming off 3 consecutive losses. So I would expect that at Goodison Park they're going to come out all guns blazing. So I would expect some goals for Everton, right? At least one, right? I would expect that they would really push for the goal, right? So I don't think the clean sheet for Gehi there is an easy one. And then Andreas on the bench. Yeah, I prefer Diego Costa at home to Leicester, right? And Andreas on the bench. So that's pretty much my team. Alright, let's say hi to some of you guys in the chat. Whitney David is in the chat. Nice to see you. Dream Stealer, hi 48 for me. Small red arrow, but still sitting at 15.5k. Awesome. That's a really, really good rank. Right. Hopefully Saka will be fit to play. Yeah. Right. We're going to the quotes. In a short while. Right. FPL Insight says, would you take a hit to do Trossard to Foden? See, that's an interesting question. I wouldn't take if you asked me whether I would take a hit to do maybe Zaha to Saka, I wouldn't. But if you're asking me whether you would take a hit to do Trossard to Foden, there's a little bit more of a consideration there. I think I would be 80% likely to make that move. Yeah. Alright, so let's take a look at the quotes now. The Twitter quotes. So we're gonna go over to Twitter. Right, so this account is FPL News, right? So it's at COLMVHAYES. So he basically, FPL News basically just types out the quotes of the, he basically types out the quotes of the press conferences. So he's just typing exactly word for word. So we're gonna get to see exactly what the managers have said. Right, so we'll cover Darwin Núñez first. Right, so Klopp on Darwin Núñez, right? He says he is one of the cases where we have to take a look, right? Because he was not injured, but he felt something, right? I don't know if he feels that still today, right? And what the medical department tells me, right, we will have to see. So at this point in time, if you've already taken a hit to bring Darwin Núñez in, right, then you just start praying, right? Because it doesn't make sense for you to bring him in and then bring him out again. So you just start praying. But if you haven't brought him in, right, then that's the question. And I think I wouldn't bring Darwin Núñez in. I wouldn't take the chance, right? I wouldn't take the chance to the chance on Darwin Núñez when there are so many better options this week, right? You could actually if you want to go for Darwin Núñez, some people would be taking hits to go there. Some people would be finding ways to get to Darwin Núñez. But if he's nursing this injury and he's not 100% sure to start, then I wouldn't take the hit. I'd be more confident in keeping players like maybe Bowen, who you're thinking of downgrading, maybe players like Zaha, whoever that you're giving up, right? Whoever that you're giving up, because there are a lot of players with good fixtures this game week, and they make a good case for them to be in your team for game week 13 still. Right, so let's take a look at Saka's code, because that's also one that is interesting. Right, a little bit about Conte first. So Conte says there are some players who are a little bit of a doubt, right? Let's take a look. Right, so on injuries and availability, right? Some players need to rest to try and avoid injury. Tomorrow will make the best decision against Newcastle, right? So this is pretty much how Conte has been managing his team. So we will see some rotation there. For Kulusevski, the situation doesn't look good, right? So Conte said that his recovery was going well, right? Situation worsened. Right, so let me look for the quote on. Let's look for the quote on Saka. Crystal Palace, De Zerbi. Oh, something that's interesting as well is that De Zerbi said that he wants to play his game. De Zerbi said that he wants Brighton to play their game, to play the way they want to play against City. So if I'm reading this quote, if I'm looking at this, I think what I'm feeling is that there would be returns in store for Man City, right? Maybe even more than we thought, because Brighton, we know, are pretty okay defensively, right? But if De Zerbi goes, all guns blazing, trying to play his style against Man City, I don't think that's the smartest thing to do, right? So there could be a lot of goals in that game, right? De Zerbi says, we want to play a good game without the ball, but I want the ball and I want to try and attack, right? To score, to shoot and to score, right? So he doesn't want to change their mentality just because they're playing against City. The way I see this quote is that they're going to be goals for Man City, right? Okay, I can't find the exact quote for Saka, but basically Arteta did say that he has a knock, right? And then we're going to reassess him again, right? So that's pretty much the same thing as what Klopp said about Darwin Núñez, right? About how they need to reassess him again. That's pretty much the same kind of situation that's going on. Right. Let's take a look at some of you guys in the chat. Keith says, got a really small green arrow this week, 49 points. Yeah, anything above 40 points I think is pretty alright for this week. Right. Steve-O says, Mount Zaha to Foden, Saka for a -4. So what I would do in your situation, right, is I would do Mount to Foden, and I wouldn't take the -4 for Saka, right? So I keep Zaha, and wouldn't go for Zaha. I'll keep Zaha, I wouldn't go for Saka, right? That's a tongue twister. Joe says, what about Liverpool forwards? So it seems like based on the quote we just read, right, Núñez is a little bit of a doubt. So if you're okay with that risk, he's the best one to get, right? If you are okay with that risk, right? Of course, aside from that, there's only one other forward that we can choose, and that's Firmino. So my first choice would be Darwin Núñez if fit. Right? Keith says, I'm thinking of getting Núñez in for Skamaka for a hit. Skamaka has Bournemouth at home, right? Núñez is a little bit of a doubt. As I said, I'm not so sure I would bring him in. the code just doesn't the code just doesn't sit well with me. I guess I'm a little bit more of a risk averse manager, but it feels like I wouldn't want to take the risk, you know. The upside is really high though, right? If Darwin Núñez plays against Nottingham Forest, I think easily 2 goals, easily 3 to 4 returns, I'd say. Right, Marcus says, my defenders are Cancelo, Trippier, Doherty, Soufal, Neco, Williams. With Doherty rotation risk, Soufal out of favour, Neco Williams facing Liverpool, should I use my 1 free transfer to bring? Are there no other changes that you could make though? I feel like there are a couple of changes in the midfield that could really be really improve your team, right? Players like Foden, players like Saka, right, which you may or may not have. But if you have, let's say, all the players that you already want from City and Arsenal, right, then yeah, I'm not opposed to this move. I'm not opposed to Ben White and Soufal, but I would imagine Ben White for Soufal. But what I would imagine is you probably have players like Jared Bowen that you're okay to keep, right? Players like Zaha that you're okay to keep as well. So if you're in that situation, I think it's fine. I think it's fine to bring in Ben White for Soufal. Right? He says Liverpool early kickoff, we should be able to find some lineup leaks. Yeah, for sure. So if I were you, I would wait for the leaks. I'll wait for the leaks to take a look at whether it makes sense, right, for Darwin Núñez to be brought in or not, right? And also, another consideration is if Darwin Núñez is out, I think captaincy on Salah, I'm going to put it out now, right? Captaincy on Salah could be massive. It could be massive. Right. Wei Heng is in the chat. Right, nice to see you. Joe says, I have Haaland, Kane, Wilson. Which forward to sell and bring this game week? Depends on how many free transfers you have though. Right, if it's just a like for like swap, I think you could upgrade Wilson, right? If you have the funds, you could upgrade Wilson. If not, downgrade I'd be tempted to downgrade Kane and go for Salah if you don't already have him, especially since Darwin Núñez could be out. Yeah, those are the things that I would be thinking about. All right, so let's take a look at the odds now for the clean sheets. So once again, I think it's no surprise. Man City, Liverpool up there. Liverpool playing Nottingham Forest. West Ham 45% against Bournemouth, so I'm pretty happy with Zuma there. Arsenal as well are very high up, right? So players like Ben White, players like Saliba is on 4 yellow cards, so a little bit of a danger there, right? But Gabriel is fine as well. Tottenham 34%, right? Chelsea 34%, Everton 31.5%, so on and so forth. So I'm really thinking like people would be considering. I saw a couple of people considering Trent as well. I would say that he's not 100% to start, right? He played 90 minutes against West Ham with a Champions League game against Ajax midweek. That's not an easy game as well. So I would say he's not 100% certain to start. So I will be a little bit careful there with Trent, right? But if you ask me, I think Robertson stands a higher chance of starting because Simica started against West Ham, right? So Robertson has a better chance of starting, but I would be looking for consistency in the starts. So maybe Van Dijk if you want to go there, but I don't really like putting so much money in Liverpool defense if it's not Trent or Robbo. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Right, so last for the stats is the goal scorer odds. Anytime goal scorer odds. So, of course, Haaland is up there, 56.5%. I think captaincy this week is pretty much clear-cut, right? If you have Haaland, you captain Haaland, right? If not, the only other consideration would be Salah and maybe even Darwin Núñez, right? So, if Darwin Núñez doesn't start, then that's all the considerations. So it would come down to Salah or Haaland. I would be very tempted to captain Salah if Darwin Núñez is confirmed to be out. I would be very, very tempted to do that. Yeah. We'll wait to find out more information. Hopefully the leaks come out before the deadline. Right, Joe says he has one free transfer. I keep all actually. I keep all your forwards. I think they're fine. And use the transfer elsewhere. Yeah, use the transfer elsewhere. I don't really like selling any of those players, to be fair. William says rate my team. Pope, Iverson, Cancelo, Trippier, Perisic, Doherty, Williams, Bruno Guimaraes. Wow. Salah, Foden, Andreas, Martinelli, Mitrovic, Tony, Haaland. How many free transfers do we have, Wei Heng? The first red flag I see is that you have double Spurs defense. You could start with one and bench the other. Or you could start Perisic and maybe bench Doherty. So that would be Pope, Cancelo, Trippier, and Perisic, Bruno Guimaraes, Salah, Foden, and Martinelli, and then Mitrovic, Tony, and Haaland. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. That looks like a pretty good team. Yeah. If I were to recommend any changes, your forwards are fine, right? Martinelli, Foden, Salah, Bruno Guimaraes, they're all fine. If you have more money in the bank, I'd be tempted to do Bruno Guimaraes to Foden if you can afford. But if not, I think this is good. Sachin says -4 for Foden, using my free transfer to take off injured James. I would do it. -4 for Foden, I would do. -4 for Saka, I wouldn't do. Robbo or Alex, I'm assuming Trent Alexander-Arnold. Stats wise, I would say that the coming game week, I am pretty uncertain about Trent's minutes, because he played 90 minutes just after coming back from his injury. So I would say, based on who's starting or who's more likely to start, I think Robertson is more likely to start. Robertson will be more likely to start against Nottingham Forest. Wei Heng says one free transfer. Yeah, I mean, if you have enough money, Bruno Guimaraes up to Foden, or else Bruno Guimaraes up to Saka, right? If you can't afford Foden. Is it too late to bring Mitrovic in? Oh, that's a good question. There's a good couple of game weeks still for him. There's a good couple of game weeks for Mitrovic. Let's take a look at his fixtures. There's Leeds away. There's Everton at home. Okay. After that it gets bad though. I don't see what other options we have though. Right, I don't see what other options we have. Maybe Tony, but I wouldn't bring Tony in this week because he's on 4 yellow cards, right? If he gets another yellow card, then you're in trouble. The only one I would consider bringing in with 4 yellow cards, right, is Jesus. I think that could be worth taking the risk for. Right, but for Mitrovic, yeah, I think it's still, simply because I don't see any other better option at that price range, right? If you can downgrade him to really improve the other areas of your squad, then okay, right? But I don't imagine you have a lot of moves to get there. So I would say Mitrovic is fine. Mitrovic is fine. Faris says Zaha and play 3-5-2 or Tony and play 3-4-3. This is a question that I received a lot on Twitter. Right, a lot of people are asking whether you keep Zaha and just play 3-5-2, right, or maybe a Tony or even Solanke, right, and play 3-4-3. It's really close. I think you're pretty much just comparing like for like. You're pretty much comparing Zaha and Tony. I'll be honest, I think I prefer Tony because I did actually even consider Diego Costa to Tony for a hit this week, right? Maybe for a minute, right? But in the end, I didn't do it, and I don't intend on doing it anyways, right? Because he's on 4 yellow cards. But if I were you, if I were to choose one, I would say Tony and play 3-4-3. Yeah, I'd say Tony and play 3-4-3. That's my preference, right? And it also depends which one you have at the moment, right? Because I wouldn't take a hit to go either ways. If you have Tony and you can play 3-4-3 now, I wouldn't go to make a transfer to bring Zaha in and play 3-5-2, right? So whichever one you're at now, right? It doesn't seem like I would take a hit to go either ways or make a transfer to go either way. So you probably just stick with that. Aryan says transfer Kane in for Mitrovic. Yeah. I mean, that's the problem, you see. Mitrovic has Leeds away, right? And Kane has Newcastle away. I actually don't think I would do that this game week. You know, I don't think I would do that this game week. Nah, I wouldn't transfer in Kane for Mitrovic this game week. Kazmi says Saka, Andreas, and Diaz, or Odegaard, Almiron, and Cancelo. Saka, Andreas, Diaz, Odegaard, Almiron, and Cancelo. I think I'd be tempted to Cancelo though. I say Cancelo outscores Saka. Right, I also say that Odegaard outscores Andreas. Maybe 2. Yeah, if I had to choose, I go 2. Farzin says, what place am I overall? I'm 1 point shy of being in the top 1 mil. 1 point shy. I'm aiming for the top 500k before the World Cup, right? And then we reset. Hopefully I had a rough start. A couple of 50-50s didn't go my way. If you remember in game week 1, right, I went for Robertson instead of Diaz. Diaz was popping off. I went for Saka instead of Martinelli. Saka is now popping off in game week 1 to game week 3. He wasn't popping off. I sold him and he scored every single. He returned every single game week after. That's just FPL, but we're gonna deal with it. We're gonna aim for the top 500k. Raya Award. Raya has Aston Villa. They're in a pretty tight spot. You do have quite a tough decision. I think I'd lean towards Ward because of Wolves. Because Wolves are just so poor in the attack. Not saying that Aston Villa are good as well, right? But I think Wolves are just so poor. Hence, you'll be wondering why I have Diego Costa in my team. Foden or Saka? Foden. Is it essential to bring Salah in for -4 or wait one more game week? I think we wait. I think we wait for the quotes. Sorry, not the quotes. I think we wait for the team leaks. If Nunes isn't starting, then Salah is worth a -4 in for a hit this game week. VJ says best bench option for the next month or 2. I would still say Andreas, just because he has the potential to return, like pretty much in every game week, because he's on set pieces and Mitrovic just has that knack of scoring. It doesn't matter who, right? He's even scored against Arsenal, right, Mitrovic. So, I mean, the guy is insane. Philly says rate this team: Pickford, Cancelo, Robbo, White, Saka, Martinelli, Salah, Foden, Andreas, Haaland, Darwin. That is a really strong team. Cancelo, Robbo, Ben White, Saka, Martinelli, Salah, Foden, Andreas, Haaland. That is a really strong team. 10 upon 10. Only weakling would be Andreas, but the rest, the strength of the rest of your... Are you on a wild card though, Philly? Seems like you are. That's such a strong team. James says, which combo do you prefer until the World Cup? White and Saka or Trent and Zaha? That's a really good question, because that's the same decision I would have to make, right? It's whether I go for Trent or or Saka. That was one of the moves I was considering at least, right? And I would feel like Trent and Zaha. I would say Trent and Zaha. I still think Ben White keeps a clean sheet against Wolves in game week 16 though. So yeah, but from now till game week 16, if Trent starts every game, so if Trent doesn't start, we're in trouble here. Right? If you're going for consistency and you're a little bit less, you're a bit more risk averse, right? Then White and Saka is a little bit safer, right? Trent, I don't think I think he could get the odd benching here and there. Yeah. Best defenders after Trippier and Cancelo. First on my list would be Ben White. Yeah, first on my list would be Ben White. Dyer or Gehi? Gehi. Pick 2 to start from Dalot, Trippier, Kilman, and Gehi. Dalot has Chelsea, so okay, I'll start Trippier for sure. So it's between Dalot, Gehi, and Kilman. It's tough. Maybe not Dalot because he has Chelsea. So it's either Kilman or Gehi then. It's pretty close. I would go for Kilman. Right, James says already have Zaha, so also saves me a transfer. Yeah, I mean the problem is Trent may not. I feel like Trent may not start. Don't quote me, but I think Trent may not start. We'll come back to this again. Clip this live stream and I may get it wrong, but I actually feel like Trent could be rested. He just came back from injury, played 90 minutes against West Ham. There's a Champions League game in the midweek against Ajax, which Liverpool have to get a point. They're not home and dry in the Champions League. They need to get a point. So I would say Trent plays that game, right? And obviously then it would kind of make sense, right? That you have a player who just came back from injury. You probably rest him against Nottingham Forest, who's the easiest opponent to rest him. What do you like? Soufal to Trent or Perisic to White? And Bale. So many moves. All for -4? Or each for a -4? Soufal to Trent, Perisic to White. Oh, I see. I get what you mean. Perisic to White and Bailey to Foden. Yeah, I like that. Aaron says, should you save money in the bank for future transfers or always try and spend it all? I think this is kind of a strategy question, right? It's more of a strategic kind of question where I would say don't spend money for the sake of spending money. Like at the start, right? If you took a look at FPL Raptors team, right? FPL Raptors is doing really well this season, and he started in game week 1 with 99 mil squad value and 1 mil in the bank, right? So I guess that's something to go by. It kind of just proves my point that I don't think there's a need to spend all the money if you can already get the players that you want. If the players are good enough, I don't think there's a need to think like, okay, I have so much money in the bank, I'm not maximizing the amount of money I have, I'm keeping too much spare. I don't think this is the thinking that I would go with. I would probably say that if you have the players that you are confident that you're confident that they would return, I don't think you should be pressured to be spending all your money. I used to have this I guess I would say wrong thinking at the start, right? But I really wouldn't try to spend all my money. I think keeping some money in the bank for future transfers is something that would really, really come in handy, especially since a lot of players in the higher price brackets are coming up, right? Players like Darwin as well. Fazin says, should I keep Tony or look to change him in the future? Keep him. I would keep him. Tony's fixtures are pretty good. Aston Villa, I think coming up he has Nottingham Forest in game week 15, if I'm not wrong. He's a keep for me. And Tony is just someone who will take along. He'll just take along every game week. Ashmit says, I'm thinking of benching Trippier this week. Spurs are too good at home. That's fair, but you gotta consider as well that Trippier doesn't only get returns from clean sheets, right? We've seen it. We've seen it. He scored against City, right? He got an assist, even though they didn't keep a clean sheet in one of the other games as well. I think Wolves. Is it Wolves? No. Brentford. They didn't keep a clean sheet. He got 7 points. He got an assist. Trippier is a start for me. I think he's a start for me. Aryan says Gabriel. Yeah, Gabriel, but he's a little bit too expensive, right? I think he's good for starts, but Ben White is equally as good for starts. I don't think I see Ben White being benched anytime soon. Azin says into Solanke. Oh, you're talking about should you change Tony to Solanke? No, I wouldn't. I just keep Tony. Right, Chandra says, will you take a -4 to upgrade Solanke to Tony now or wait for Jesus next week? I want Jesus against Nottingham Forest next week. I would wait because Jesus is on 4 yellow cards. So if he gets one this week, he misses Nottingham Forest game. But in your position, you can keep Solanke for this game week. It's fine to start him against West Ham West Ham away. He's on penalties, right? Fine to keep him. And then come game week, is it game week 14? Right, when Jesus, assuming he doesn't get the yellow card, right, transfer him in for Nottingham Forest. I do like that. I consider that possibility as well. Andreas to Rashford for -4. I wouldn't. They have Chelsea, so I wouldn't do it this week. James says in the above combo, I can just about afford Robbo plus Saka instead of White plus Saka. Do you prefer Robbo plus Saka to? Oh. That's a good question. Robbo plus Saka. Nah. Trent and Zaha. I prefer Trent and Zaha. Yeah, I prefer Trent and Zaha. Alex says, I have Ward, Mendy, Cancelo, Trippier, Dalot, Kilman, Gehi, Sterling, Martinelli for that. Any suggestions? Sterling to Rashford next week. Cancelo, Trippier, Kilman, Gehi, Sterling, Martinelli, Foden, Zaha, Andreas. Your team's actually pretty strong. You have Foden. Okay, you probably only don't have Saka, but you have Jesus. I think you're pretty okay. Your forward line is fine. Foden, Zaha, Martinelli, Sterling. I try to fit in some Liverpool players if I were you. Yes, you have Darwin, but I try to fit in another one. If you have some money in the bank, maybe a Liverpool defender. Right, if not, you could go for an Arsenal defender as well. Should we play Doherty or Gehi this week? I would go for... I really don't think that Crystal Palace keeps a clean sheet, so I would say Doherty. Start Mings or Gehi. Mings just got an own goal. Okay, but taking things independently, I would say that the Mings owners were really unlucky, by the way. Right, really unlucky. I'd say Gehi. Right, I'll start Gehi ahead of Mings. If it wasn't because of you, I would have taken a -4 for Emerson to Gehi last game week. Thanks for saving me from a useless -4 maker. I'm glad it helped you. Right, thanks Rolls Royce. Ashmit says, is Foden a must this game week? I am thinking of Bowen this game week, Saka next game week, and then move to Foden. That's perfectly okay. That's perfectly okay. Right, it's fine to stick with Bowen this game week, Saka next game week, and then move to Foden. If this is your route, I think it's perfectly fine. Aryan says, rate the team. Defense is Trippier, White, Cancelo. Very good defense, right? Midfield, Foden, Saka, Almiron, Martinelli. Very good midfield as well. Tony, Haaland, and Kane. with goalkeepers Pope and Raya. The only thing I would do with this team is to try and fit sound Liverpool players. I would really, really try to. But I don't see where you could. Sorry guys, I don't see where you can go. You're pretty stuck. If you have some money, maybe. Well, you're pretty stuck. I guess this is it. I guess you start with your best 11 and forgo Liverpool players. Chandra says play Andreas leads away. Solanke. Solanke. Vijay says general strategy for bench order. Alright, so I think in general, when you're thinking about your bench order, how I would do is, okay, keepers I wouldn't say, right? You just go for the one that is has the better fixture. But if you're talking about your bench players, right, the other three, most of the time, right, you would be in a situation where there's one player in your team that is definitely taking that last spot, like that third on the bench spot. So for my team this game week, it's Dunk, right? But in other situations, right, people could have maybe Greenwood, right, maybe like Archer. Like early on in the season, right, I did have a couple of bench fodders in Archer as well. That's your third player for sure, right? And then I guess it comes down to the first and second, right? So then that's where it's a little bit more of a consideration there. So for me, I've started, let's say this game week, Andreas ahead of Gehi, simply because I think Gehi doesn't keep a clean sheet, right? So just based on what I feel, who's more likely to get points, right? I would obviously just start the other player ahead, right? So Gehi against Everton, I really don't see a clean sheet there, so I'm going for Andreas instead, right? So that's generally how I place my players, right? And in terms of the starting 11, sometimes it's not so clear, right? Sometimes it's not so clear who to start and who to bench, right? Those are probably the tougher decisions. So in general, I would say that there's usually one or two, like for this game week, Diego Costa, Andreas, and Gehi could all make my team, right? But I've chosen to go for Diego Costa instead. You usually have to make these kind of decisions as well, right? So sometimes it comes down to gut feel, sometimes it comes down to, I use percentages a lot as well, right? Just now we went through the clean sheet percentages, anytime scorers and things like that. I use that a lot, and also what bookies think of the teams that are playing this game week, who's going to play better, who's predicted to win and to lose, right? And then I kind of use that to bench players. That was pretty long, right? But I hope it was comprehensive. Just want to say I think Saka's only good for the Forest game. The rest will be low scoring, I reckon. That's exactly what I think. I really do think like especially for Chelsea and Wolves, I don't think there are many goals to be had there. Right, I mean, Chelsea away isn't an easy fixture. Kepa is on fire. Kepa is on absolute fire. Alright, then there's the Wolves away game. Wolves also have been conceding a lot of goals. So they conceded 4 against Manchester City, if I'm not wrong. 3 against Man City. Okay, in recent times they've conceded 2 against Chelsea as well. 3 against Chelsea as well. Right, but earlier on we saw like they're not horrible. They're not horrible, and I just think like it's not an easy game. It's not an easy game. If the news says Nunes is out, do you do -4 to get Firmino against Nottingham Forest to replace Solanke? Actually, I would do that. I think it could be a massacre. I really see a massacre there, especially if Nunes doesn't play. Because yes, I know he's getting a lot of chances. Yes, I know people are looking at buying him. But my thoughts is that Salah plays much better without Darwin Nunes. Firmino also plays better without Darwin Nunes. That's just based on the eye test, just based on what I've seen, right? So I really do think like if Darwin is out, I'd say Firmino for a hit is fine. Top 3 goalies. At this point, Ramsdale is one of them. Raya is pretty good as well. Gaeta. Yeah, I like all of them. I like all of these keepers now. Trossard to Bernardo. If you don't have, I wouldn't do that. Yeah. This question came up on Twitter as well, right? Bernardo to Foden if you don't have enough money for. Trossard to Bernardo if you don't have enough money for Foden. I wouldn't do that. I don't think Bernardo is as explosive an asset as Foden, so I wouldn't do that. Ashmit says start Kepa or Ward. Alex says even Southampton away, right? Look at Wolves at home. Yeah, Alex, I completely agree with you. Debated says, okay, how did you end up with Diego Costa? That is a question, isn't it? He could really very well just be Dominic Solanke and be in the top 600k maybe. But I chose to go for Diego Costa as a punt, as someone that I could gamble with. I felt like the third forward spot is where we could gamble. What do you know? Punished. So, yeah, I mean, I just went for Diego Costa because in game week 9, he looked really good. Right, Wolves, when Diego Costa came on at least, right, for that small little cameo in game week 9, he did look pretty good. Right, but I guess the lesson learned there is that the lesson learned there would probably be that I should go for someone who is proven over a longer period of time. Right, but the factors that I were considering when I brought Costa in is based on how good a player that we know he is. On top of that, how he looked when he had that cameo. He looked really good during that cameo, I have to admit. Right, but I mean, looking back, I would probably say that I should have gone for a player that is pretty much a little bit more consistent in his recent performances. Right, Costa was really good a while back. Right, so that's kind of the lessons I would take away from that. James says, do you use predictive models, FPL review? If so, how much weight do you give to their EV predictions? I do take a look at FPL review. I do take a look at Fantasy Football Hub as well. Right, something I like from Fantasy Football Hub is the okay, wait. I'll head over to Fantasy Football Hub now, but I'll quickly answer the last few questions on chat. Gary says, am I streaming tomorrow? I'm not. I usually stream on Fridays for a couple of reasons. I think Saturday is a little bit tougher for me to stream. I'll try to stream on Saturdays instead. I know a lot of the bigger YouTubers are streaming on Saturday as well, so I'll try to do that. But for now, I think it's pretty tough. I think moving forward after the World Cup, I could stream on Saturdays instead. Haaland captain over Salah. If Nunes plays, I would captain Haaland. If Nunes doesn't play, I would captain Salah. Right, I assume that there will be some team leaks. So, if that happens, right, then we probably know and then we can act accordingly. Right, start Gaeta or Ward this week. I'll start Ward. Surprisingly enough, I can't imagine I would have said that if Leicester didn't play as well as they did. Right, Darwin over Salah. Darwin is nursing an injury, so I would say Salah is safer for this game week. I read somewhere Costa got more yellow cards and goals after he left Chelsea. If that's true, then that's bad. Yeah, I mean, thinking back as well, right, I think along the season, I learned a lot of lessons as well that I guess the biggest lesson I've learned so far, right, is Captain Haaland. That's just the biggest lesson I've learned, especially in game week 9. Game week 9, I didn't captain Haaland, and that's where I am right now. So you think about it, if I captain Haaland, and if I'd gone for Solanke instead of Costa, I think I'd be in the top 200, 300k. So a couple of decisions that really, really cost me, but we're going to keep pushing. Right, okay. I'll quickly head on over to, because James asked about the predictive models, right? I think it's a good lead into Fantasy Football Hub. For those of you guys who are new to the channel, I am paired with Fantasy Football Hub this season. I'm an affiliate, and basically I just really enjoy using their tools, right? So in terms of predictive models, right, what I really kind of follow closely is the predicted points, right? So Salah this week is on 8.8 predicted points, right? Haaland this week is on 7 predicted points. So predicted points wise, right, Salah is faring better, right? But how I use this is usually for the tighter decisions. It's usually for the benching decisions such as Costa, Gehi, and Andreas, right? I use those tougher calls by. I prefer to let the data and also the robots kind of make the decision, the tougher calls for me, because I actually do think like over time, right, they do have a pretty good record, so I'm pretty okay with it, right? And another thing that I like about Fantasy Football Hub, right, is this. So I did prepare Foden versus Saka in this slide because I think a lot of people would kind of be in this spot, right? A lot of questions we saw in the stream today as well about Foden against Saka. But you take a hit to go for Foden, where you take a hit to go for Saka, things like that, right? So simply put, before we even go into the stats, right, I would do Foden in for a hit, but I wouldn't do Saka in for a hit. That's where I stand right now, right? But in terms of their stats, right, solely because Man City are so much more attacking than Arsenal, they're so much more consistent as well. Arsenal, I know they're good, right? But this season, you cannot deny that City has just been on a different level, especially with the beast that they have up front. So at this point, Foden has the better stats, right? It's pretty close. If you look at the numbers, I don't think you guys can see. It's pretty small, right? But the numbers are quite close. In the wildcard video that I released about a couple of days ago, we looked at the numbers in detail, and it's pretty close. XG is 0.43 per 90 for Foden, and XG is 0.35 for Saka, right, per 90. Right, XA as well, 0.34 for Foden, 0.20 for Saka. So it's pretty close. These numbers are all respectable numbers. They're pretty close. They're doing quite well for their teams, right? But if you take a look at the fixtures, that's where it starts to differ, and that's where we were having that discussion with Alex as well, right? The next couple of fixtures, Brighton, Leicester, Fulham, Brentford. Those are 3 out of these 4 fixtures are at home, right? Outside factors as well. Man City are secured in the Champions League. They don't have to keep playing Foden in the Champions League. Foden is obviously a much preferred starter ahead of Grealish and who's the other one? Mahrez. So many things going well for Foden, right? We take a look at Saka now. Outside factors is that Arsenal are already in the Europa League, right? So they don't really have to play Saka in the Europa League anymore. They're already in knockout stages. But at this point, Saka is not 100%. He's flagged, right? Fixtures wise, Southampton, Nottingham Forest, and then Chelsea and Wolves. So it's really based on all these factors, right? When you consider them properly, I think Foden really stands out as the better pick over the next 4 game weeks. But if you are talking about Saka for game week 13 and 14, and then swapping over to Foden in game week 15 and 16, I think that is where it takes a different toll, a different turn. But if we're going for a 1 this game week, if I have to choose, it has to be Foden. Right? For me, it has to be Foden. Right, so yeah, it's pretty much. So these are the models that I kind of use, the stats, the predictions, kind of make my decisions for me. And yeah, I mean 50-50 decisions haven't been going my way, but hopefully in the next couple of game weeks I can get to where I want to be, top 500k, and then we can just push on from there after the reset. Alright, so hopefully you guys are here to watch the journey. Alright. By the way, if you guys are in the chat as well, we're trying to hit or if you're just watching, right? We're trying to hit 3,000 subscribers by the World Cup, right? That is a target that I've had for quite a while now. So if you guys could help me out and hit that subscribe button and also like this stream as well, that would be really, really appreciated. Right. What moves to make? 1.2 in the bank. Team is Pope, Cancelo, Trippier, Gehi, Foden, Martinelli. Wow. Probably a Liverpool player, right? Probably in for a Liverpool player. Joe. Right. Alex says, a bit dumb, but I don't like the fact that Liverpool is an early game. There's always that early kickoff kind of fear, right? That early kickoff fear that they don't really return the way you want to, and then you just have a bad weekend after that. So I totally understand that. But obviously, independent decisions, right? Independent decisions based off of, we should make independent decisions. Ashmit says, "Do you think you'll start Spurs wing back?" I think Sessegnon comes back. The reason why I say that is because there was a game when Perisic was perfectly fine to start, but he was benched and Sessegnon came back. So I'm not 100% there. I think Emerson comes back. Okay, if I have to predict, I would say Perisic and Emerson. Against Newcastle. Yeah, but I say Sessegnon is really in for a shout as well. Maybe 60th, 70th minute we probably see him. Yeah, I mean, Alex says, same with me. Haaland captain literally be in the top 100k. I wish I did as well. Jared says, I would love to see Diego Costa in this tool. I've seen it, mate. It is horrible. How about comparing Saka to Mount? Sure, I'll do it in a bit. VJ says, who takes penalties for Chelsea? Jorginho. Paul says, which Liverpool assets should I go for? Attacking assets? I would say Salah is the safest to go for now because Nunes is a doubt. Ashmit says, love the content. Thank you very much. Nigel Fernandez. Raya, Gehi, Cancelo, Gomez, Ben White, Foden, Salah, Martinelli. Forward is Haaland, Jesus, Firmino. Subs. You're on a wild card. Interesting. I think Gomez is an okay pick, right? Ibrahim Konate and also Matip are still a while away from recovery. Foden, Salah, Martinelli, Jesus. I would actually have Saka ahead of Jesus on my wild card if I were you. Try to fit Saka ahead of Jesus because Jesus is on 4 yellow cards, so there's every chance he could be suspended soon. But if you have a gut feel that Jesus would outscore Saka, which I don't think it's impossible, I think it's totally a possibility, right? Then yeah, I guess this team is pretty okay. Maybe you wouldn't go for Jensen though. Yeah, I may not go for Jensen. Right. Kehi or Doherty to Trent for a -4, or would you rather spend the money up front? Depends on who your forwards are. But what I would say is, see, if I were to go on what I am thinking, it's that Trent may not start. So, it's Kehi or Doherty. I'd rather spend the money up front. Yeah, I'd rather spend the money up front actually. Alright. That's pretty much what I have for today. If you guys are in the chat, please help me out and like the stream, subscribe as well so that we can hit 3,000 subscribers. This is pretty much, I guess, most of the things that I wanted to cover today. Yeah, nothing else that I've got. Alright. Trippier and Pope. Should I bench Trippier? If yes, I'm gonna bring Rashford for Trossard and play Rashford. If you don't have a substitute keeper and you have to play Pope, I think it's possible you bench Trippier but Rashford has Chelsea, so I wouldn't do that. I'd actually just start with both, or maybe just use a transfer elsewhere. Right, Almiron and Trippier long term. I think that could work. Trippier is definitely long term for me. I'm gonna keep him all the way till the World Cup. Almiron, if you can upgrade Andreas to Almiron, if you have the funds, I think he's on a purple patch right now. It's really good. Saka Zindran, FYI, yeah, he's nursing a knock. Alex says, who should I transfer in for Jesus after Forest? Tony. I've taken a look at this. Tony has Nottingham Forest. All right. Thanks everyone for joining the stream. Gary, Chandra, Leo, VJ as well. Thank you all for your support. I really appreciate you guys coming down. If you enjoyed the stream, please give it a like as well. Right, and I'll see you guys in the Game Week 14 content. Right, the game weeks have been coming really thick and fast, but yeah, I've really enjoyed putting the content together for you guys. Right, so I'll see you guys in another video. And yeah, that's it for now. Right, all the best for Game Week 13. Right, bye bye.